year champions. Dude, it gets like people are running people.
My name is Jasmine, and I am a recovering drug addict.
My name is Richie Farrell, AKA the Old White Junkie.
And we are your hosts for Exit Team Nashua.
Our mission is to bring recovery into the living room.
Last year, over 72,000 Americans died of an accidental overdose.
That's almost 200 Americans every single day.
We will bring you guests with real-life experiences with addiction and recovery. Welcome to Exit Team Nashua.
Came out years ago.
Hi, welcome to Exit Team Nashua. My name is Jasmine, and I am your host. Exit Team is a show where we take people with real-life experiences with addiction and suffering, and we bring them right into your living room. I am joined by my co-host, Bobby.
Hey.
He's obviously holding it together better than I am.
It happens. It's very rare, but it happens.
So true. You are the glue.
Wow.
You are the glue.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a bold statement.
Bold. Ooh, we found a way to use bold again for another show.
It's a great word. It's a power word.
It is
Strong.
So we are joined today by Justin Etlin. Hi, Justin.
Hello.
Welcome. Justin is the CEO of Process Recovery Center right here in Nashua, right?
Correct.
And you guys just opened another treatment center.
We did, called Integrate.
Integrate. And you also have...
Rise Above Sober Living.
Yeah,
Is that?
Yes.
I was questioning there. What do I have?
Wait, what's the other one? Is there another one?
So those are a lot of resources for this community right here, because a lot of times we have people on from like New Hampshire all over. So this is cool because you are someone that is providing a lot of treatment opportunity right here in Nashua.
Yes.
So
I love Nashua. It's my home.
I love Nashua too. Do you live in Nashua?
I do live in Nashua,
You do.
and I got clean and sober in Nashua, and then I moved away for 15 years, and I just moved back in the last year.
Okay.
So, yep.
I love Nashua. Every once in a while I'll entertain the thought of moving, and then I think about like my codependency with Nashua, and I'm like, oh yeah, reel it back in. I'm gonna stay right here.
I've been in the same spot, and then I go somewhere else for a meeting, and they like close it out different, and I'm like, they don't know anything. They don't know real AA.
Oh God.
Different parts of the country. It's
No, it's just like, what do you mean? Like we do it works if you work it, like whole thing. No, it's not how we do it.
Okay.
I don't like change.
So we all love Nashua. That's good. We're all on the same page. So I want to talk about the really awesome resources that you have about Nashua, but I also really want to talk about you.
Okay.
Because you are someone that you do a lot for people, and you're able to connect with people. And so like, I think that you really are like a story of inspiration and hope. You know, because of where you came from to where you're at now, and the platform and ability that you have to help other people is amazing. So where did everything start for you?
So I got clean and sober November 25th, 1997.
Okay.
So I was a 17-year-old kid at the time. I'm 39 now, so.
I didn't know you got sober at 17.
I did, yeah. Yeah, I did. I got clean at 17, so
That's
I have 21
impressive.
years sober today, yeah.
That is so
Wow.
awesome.
Yeah, it's,
But hold
surreal.
on. What was happening at 17 that you decided to get sober?
Well, so I grew up in a addict household,
Mm-hmm.
so a good portion of my youth was spent in foster homes.
Okay.
So when I was 10, I was in a foster home in Florida, my brother and I were, and we were adopted by some distant cousins in Windham, New Hampshire. We had never met them. They were like fourth cousins down the line.
Yeah.
They thought they were taking us for 6 months, and my mother never got better. She, wasn't showing up to see us and other stuff. So they adopted us, essentially. Unfortunately for them, they adopted true drug addicts. So, and the damage had already been done at that point, that 10 years in foster care and how I felt about myself. And it was just, I don't want to say it was too late, but it was, I was just in a lot of pain is the reality of the situation.
That's what I hear when you're saying that. I can literally feel.
The ball just was rolling.
Yeah, the ball was rolling. I was in a lot of pain, and it was hard to adjust to a new family. I didn't feel like I belonged, even though they did everything in their power to make me feel welcomed. And so when drugs and alcohol, and my addiction started, I was actually talking to a guy today. I was arrested when I was like 10 for stealing tapes, and I used to steal baseball cards. Remember when they used to have the Topps gold baseball cards? It was probably before your time. I'm old. I'm 39. Yeah, no?
I'm 24.
All right, yeah, he's 24. He's a
I'm
young
34,
guy.
but baseball cards were never my thing.
Yeah, well, they used to have like one card in each pack that had a gold on it, and so that card was worth way more. So it was like an addiction because you would open the pack and who did I get for the gold card?
So you're robbing Walmart to get all the gold.
Exactly.
cards.
Well, because you could pull. At one point, I pulled a Shaquille O'Neal gold rookie card. Right? And that card was worth like $900 at the time.
Yeah. When you were 10?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Did you have a guy for that as a 10-year-old? Like,
I think he did.
No, I used to go to KB Toys, actually. That's where I used to rob them for cards, because they used to sell cards there. And then there was a card store.
Baseball card stores used to be a thing.
They were a big thing.
They used to have them.
Yeah, they were a big thing. So, I had some addiction tendencies obviously going on there.
Yeah.
And the second that I used drugs and alcohol, to me, it was what I was looking for. And I couldn't comprehend that at the time, but it's just.
You were 10. How old were you the first time you used it?
I was probably 12.
12, okay.
The first time that I used. I got locked up within like 6 to 9 months of my use. I just like went off the rails. I went to Hampstead Hospital as a very young youth, 12, I believe.
I would say when I think of someone 12 years old, I think of someone just a little child. I would call them probably a baby if they were here. Yeah.
But believe it or not, I mean, it does happen. I mean, if you go to YDC today or, the Sununu Center that the governor has for young people today with drug addiction, there are some young people in there, 12, 13, 14.
I mean, I started when I was 12.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's really common for us.
Yeah.
It was just like, I didn't have the opportunity to go that hard at 12. But I knew once I took that first drink and that drug, like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I felt the same way.
Like, I finally found the answer.
Yep, I 100% agree. And for me, it made me feel better. It gave me a sense of connection to the people because I always felt like I didn't belong, I didn't connect, and I was popular and all this other stuff, but it didn't matter. I still didn't feel okay. So the second I started using, my life just instantly, I wasn't doing good in school anyways. I was a troublemaker. And so it's just
so crazy of me to think of you that way.
Yeah, I was. I know. It is crazy.
It really is. Okay, sorry.
I was defiant.
I'm just like trying to picture you being that person.
Yeah, so.
See, I could see it.
I
could see you like lighting a desk on fire or something.
Yeah, I used to light things on fire.
Yeah, no, so like for some reason I'm just like, what? I can totally see that.
I used to not listen and just walk out of the house. They'd ground me and I'd just leave,
Okay.
So I started getting sent to drug treatments. Hampstead Hospital was first, and that was like a youth unit. So it wasn't just for drugs and alcohol. There were young kids in there who had tried to kill themselves. It was. Mental health's a huge issue, and there's more awareness about it today than there was 21 years ago, but it's, there are just kids out there suffering is the reality of the situation. And so, I just, between 12, 13, and 17, I went to 9 institutions, I think. And so I was just in and out of school, in and out of high school. I didn't graduate high school. I dropped out of high school when I was like 15. They converted me when I was 15 to like a work program where you went to school from like 8 to 11, and then they let you leave and go like work at a job. So I was like working at UPS. I got a job when I was 16 at UPS, and so they used to let me go to school for a portion of the day because they had already given up on me. It was over. I wasn't completing high school because every time I got sent to treatment, you wouldn't be able to keep up with schoolwork, so then I'd just go back, and it was like, by the time I was 16, I was still a freshman with 4 credits, and they were just like, it's it's a wrap here. You know, why don't you just try to get your GED? So they put me in a GED class. And so at 15 years old, I actually had 6 months sober at one point. They had sent me to the Marathon House, which is no longer in existence. It's the Phoenix House now in Dublin, New Hampshire.
Okay.
But they used to have a youth program there years ago. And so I went to that youth program, and I actually did well in the program. And when I got out, you know, I went back to high school, and I didn't use for like 3 months. So I was in the program for like 3 months. I didn't use for 3 months. And then eventually, you know, just I was hanging around with my peers, and they were using. And to me, I don't know what was wrong with me, but I never saw people not using. There's this whole contingent of people that go to school and they're good kids and they're like not using.
It's funny.
And I just couldn't see them. I didn't even know they existed. I was like, you know.
Because why am I going to look for them?
It's actually the majority of people in school.
Yeah.
Wait.
I can specifically remember watching Scarface when I was in like 2nd or 3rd grade because you know, my mom was just passed out all the time, so we'd do whatever we wanted. And I watched Scarface, and I remember thinking at the time that Tony Montana was the greatest man I had ever seen. I like idolized him, you know, and like they should probably show that movie to like 3rd, 4th graders now, and any kid that idolizes Tony Montana, they should just instantly send him, send him to rehab because that kid's in trouble.
They should send him to like a yoga love retreat.
like I got in trouble in kindergarten for telling my teacher when I grew up I wanted to be Luca Brasi.
I don't know who that is.
You've never seen The Godfather? The Big Enforcer?
I'm not like a TV movie.
Yeah,
Oddly enough, I have a TV show.
Your kids shouldn't be watching those shows, to be honest, because it glorifies. In ways, it glorifies, you know, the use and other stuff. You know, I mean, obviously, you don't think, oh, it's a big deal, but for me, something in me clicked, and I'm idolizing a guy who's like killing people and doing massive amounts of coke. You know, at a young age. I was attracted to that. Exactly.
The money, the power.
So there was a piece of me that registered in my head, like that's. So then when I started using and I liked it, it just kind of clicked that that's what I wanted to do. It dealt with my pain. It made me feel better. And I didn't care about the consequences. You know, they literally...
You got that confidence you idolized.
Exactly. And they would literally just send me to treatment. I thought it was cool that I was in treatment so young. I'd get out. I'd get in trouble again. And so...
The badge of honor, that false badge of honor.
Yeah. Look at me.
I used to
drive
drive
against the grain.
I used to drive back to high school and act like I was cool. You know what I mean? Out in the parking lot, I'm like the dropout kid in my car doing drugs.
Like
I have 2 daughters today. I have 2 daughters today. I would die. I would kill that guy. I don't like that guy, you know? But I was that guy, unfortunately. So, you know, I was just
everybody's in school learning, just chilling in the parking lot. Like,
exactly, chilling in the parking lot. I had this big home subwoofer in my the home subwoofer in the trunk of your Ford Mustang car. Everything rattles. It was embarrassing. I'm embarrassed.
You thought you were so cool, though.
I thought I was so cool. I thought I was so cool. So when I was 16, I got, you know, in trouble with probation. I failed the drug test. I thought they were sending me back to treatment. I ran away. And I went to Manchester, and I got my own apartment with 2 friends. And I lived on my own for a year, and I got high every day, and I got high the way that I wanted to. And one of my excuses always was if everybody just left me alone and let me get high the way I wanted to, I'd be okay.
What was your drug of choice?
Crack.
Crack, okay.
Yeah, and drinking. I drank a lot. I never did heroin, so I'm fortunate in that, you know, that I never did heroin. Because to me back then, heroin was for drug addicts. For some reason, smoking crack was acceptable, but I
like the law.
Yeah,
I like the law.
To me, and I get that.
To me,
cocaine.
Well, cocaine, and to a certain extent, people look. You know, people want to say, "Oh, it's okay. People can recreationally use cocaine," but cocaine leads you into crack. Is the reality of the situation.
See, I thought I wasn't a drug addict because I just snorted heroin.
Okay.
I didn't shoot it.
Yeah.
You know.
That makes sense.
And smoked it off foil.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
Okay.
So
it's classy.
Yes, it is. So
it's so gross.
But really, it's just like take an assessment of someone's life. How's your life going? Yeah. And my life was a disaster. Yeah. I was hurting everybody around me. I was stealing. I was lying. I was, you know, I moved out and then I would go back to their house to steal from them all the time because for me, the easiest targets were the people that were closest to me. You know, so they'd be at work during the day and I'd go try to steal whatever was in the house. And so fortunately, I got to use the way I wanted to for a year. And God intervened and I got arrested, and that whole thing was like a whole God shot anyways, because they'd come looking for me a few times and like my roommates would just say, "Do you have a search warrant?" No. And they just happened not to be there at the time that they came. I was in the shower, about to get in the shower. I had a towel on. I said, "Who is it?" I didn't hear who it was. The people that lived downstairs from us, we used to use drugs, and we transported drugs for them, actually. And so I thought it was them trying to use our phone. And so I went to the door in a towel, and, you know, my probation officer arrested me, essentially. So, and I think I potentially would have ran out the back door if I had had clothes on, if they were there, you know. So God intervened, I believe, for myself. And so that was November, you know, 24th, I think, 1997. And my family came and picked me up, my adopted family, and they proceeded to tell me that I was no longer part of the family, that they couldn't do this with me anymore. They had done it for years and years, and I had just done nothing but cause them pain. They took life insurance out on me because they thought I was going to kill myself or somebody else.
That's heavy.
Yeah, no, it was terrible. And they, you know, they gave me the phone. And I, knowing the system, I had been in the system so long there, I decided to call a drug treatment center because I knew I was going to have to go back to court. And if I was in drug treatment when I went to court, I wouldn't go to jail. That was my logic at the time. And so I went back to the treatment center, Marathon House, that I originally had gone to. First I went to detox at Hampstead Hospital, and then I went to Marathon House, and I got clean and sober. My family didn't visit me, which was devastating to me. I remember the first family day on Saturday. Everybody showed up. My family didn't. I was in my room crying like I want to say a little girl, but men do cry. You know what I mean? It's like easy. You know, I want to put on this persona that I'm this tough guy, but I'm not. Yeah. So obviously, look at me. So, you know, and that's where my journey started. And, you know, I got out of there. I moved to Nashua. I got my own apartment. At 17.
I was going to say 17, right? Yeah.
I was 17. I got an apartment on Palm Street in Nashua. I had never been to Nashua before.
Yeah.
They have all
Palm
these.
Street's a rough street?
It is a rough street,
Yeah.
yes.
It's the tree streets.
Most of the tree streets.
Oh, yeah, I should know that, yeah.
Yeah, there's all these tree streets.
Yes.
There's actually no trees on the tree streets. I'm not sure why they named them.
There's not many trees in Nashua, actually.
No, there's not. So it's a little bit of a rougher part. Yeah. Not that Nashua is overly dangerous. Nashua's a great community, you know, but back 21 years ago, it was, you know, I was a kid. I rented this, you know, $325 a month. The treatment center helped me to get that apartment. There was no, sober living didn't exist 21 years ago. Yeah. I was a youth, so I couldn't get into any extended programs because they wouldn't take a youth. It was a liability. So I moved into that apartment, and I went to a meeting the first night that I got out, and God saw fit that there was another 17-year-old kid in that meeting, and he welcomed me to recovery. And I've been to thousands of meetings in the last 21 years. It's rare you see a 17-year-old.
So amazing.
Very rare. Yeah. The fact that the first meeting I ever walked into was another 17-year-old.
And you've been such a vessel since then.
Yeah, and he's, you know, he saved my, you know, him and his family saved my life. When I was 5 years clean, he died of cancer, which was very difficult, obviously. But within knowing him for 2 months, his mom had moved to Nashua for treatment. She had gone to Keystone Hall, which is still in existence and a great program. And he followed shortly after. So she had like 9 months clean. He had like 6 months clean. I had like 3 months clean. And she invited me to live with them. You know, I had known her son for like probably a month or two. And she's like, you know, you live in Palm Street. It's not nice over there. Why don't you come live with us? So she invited me to live with them. And, you know, people just surrounded me. I was very fortunate that people showed me a lot of love and compassion. And for the first time in my life, I was ready to hear the message. I was ready to, you know, accept this way of life. I didn't even know what that meant at the time, but I just knew that I didn't want to use anymore, and they had been bringing me to meetings for years. And in my mind, meetings always meant I was doomed to church basements for the rest of my life. That's what I thought recovery was. You're just, you know, and unfortunately on television and other stuff, it's getting a lot better these days with television and other stuff, but there is like a stigma around recovery, unfortunately, like what it is. It's like this boring thing, you know what I mean? Like, oh man, feel bad for those people, that looks terrible. But the reality of the situation is, it's amazing what happens in meetings. People unconditionally love you and welcome you.
It doesn't matter what you do.
Exactly, it doesn't matter what you do.
I'm like the worst person ever in meetings, and people still have let me
Exactly.
back. Yeah.
I've openly threatened to commit horrible crimes against people in meetings. From, like, sharing.
Yeah.
Like, raising my hand in the nooner.
Yeah.
And threatening, and, like, people came up to me after, like, hey, you need some help, bud. Let's talk.
Yeah.
You know, and
Unconditional love.
Yeah.
It's
it wasn't-
unconditional love, and it's written in the traditions. You know, it's supposed to be
Yeah.
an atmosphere of love and welcoming, and that doesn't happen at every meeting. Let's be honest. You know, I mean, I'm a big supporter of meetings, but you know, if there's a bunch of people with clean time in a meeting who are trying to hold on to those traditions and create a loving, caring atmosphere, then you get a loving, caring atmosphere. But to say that you can't walk into a meeting and there's just a bunch of new people and they don't understand the traditions, and you know, we got our tough guy personas on, all of us, you know, because it's a defense mechanism. I have fear, so I just pretend like I'm tough and everything's okay. Or not to say there are a lot of tough people. It's the reality of the situation. People have lived tough lives and done tough things. And so, you know, every meeting's different. But I was fortunate that they welcomed me in, and I met Danny, and it was, you know, ultimately, slowly but surely, I just came to believe in what I believed in the beginning was if I do the right thing will happen.
Okay.
It was that simple. Literally, that was the message
like how
for me.
much clean time do you think you had when you had developed that belief system?
It was early on. It was
Really?
literally early on. I think I had probably 6 months clean where I started to buy into like that message.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, and it was the small things early in recovery that gave me hope. My first job in recovery was at Auntie Anne's Pretzel Shop in the Pheasant Lane Mall. Obviously not a glorious job. I was a drug dealer before. I thought I was this tough guy. We were transporting drugs and all this other stuff. It was humbling to take that job, but I had no job skills, zero.
Right.
From that job, I used to serve pretzels to the manager at Foot Action, and at Foot Action, they wore nice Nike jerseys and they had brand new kicks, and like, to me, that was like the greatest thing ever. If I could only get a job at Foot Action. And, you know, by being nice to the manager and stuff, one day he walked up and was like, "Do you need a job?" And I was like, "Yes, I do." "Hell yeah, please."
Yes.
You know? And I started working at Foot Action, and I started to apply the principles that were taught in recovery to, you know, not steal, work hard, always show up, all these things that were taught.
Yeah.
And they promoted me to assistant manager when I was 19. And I was like, man, this is amazing. You know, it was like small little things that like, I thought I was nothing, worth nothing. And slowly but surely recovery opened doors for me, and it was slow. And 21 years later, I can't even, it's like, come on. You know, it doesn't even, it makes sense to me today because I love recovery so much, and I understand that most people misunderstand recovery, but the truth is recovery is just habits of healthy living.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a formula for success. And the truth is that there's a lot of normal people out there who have habits for, you know, they inherently live with humility. They're able to express who they are. They have confidence in themselves. They can admit when they do something wrong. They're not defensive. You know what I mean? It's very easy for us. Like, we're so insecure about ourselves. We're very defensive, you know, and we'll like, and we'll think, you know, why is this boss challenging me about something? And give them an attitude and get fired. You know what I mean? It's like, he's your boss. Respect him. I don't care if he's challenging you. Too bad. What did you do wrong? You know? Because that's what people want. They want good workers who are humble and want to advance. And so, you know, the principles I've learned in recovery have essentially, you know, affected every area of my life. And today I have an amazing life. But the credit goes to recovery. It's not me. You know what I mean? I'm just like a vessel of what recovery has to offer is the reality of the situation. It's easy for me to take credit for this great life I have today. Oh, I have this, I have that. But the truth is that I was taught by people how to live a healthy way of life, and as a result, I've been blessed because there's a formula. To me, I just believe these days my spirituality is based in there's a formula for success. And if I'm tapping into positive energy, I'm helping people, I'm, you know, doing things to better who I am, then that will translate into a better relationship. That will translate into a better job, into advancement in my career, advancement.
The more you just keep seeking those things.
Exactly. And then it gives you path and purpose. Which we're very, we're very fortunate that recovery gives us path and purpose. You know, so I'm blessed, you know, definitely to be in recovery. And today I own a recovery center and I help people for a living, and which is, again, a blessing. You know,
you do. We only have a couple minutes left. These shows go so quickly.
Yeah.
But so for people watching, I want them to know about resources that you do have available.
Sure.
So let's talk about them quickly, because you have a lot in this area to help people.
Yeah, so we have the Process Recovery Center, which is, you know, an outpatient treatment model. It does PHP, IOP. It's 5 hours a group a day, or 3 hours a group a day. It steps down to, you know, hours a group, 1 hour groups, and then, it's recovery coaching. Integrate is the same model. It's just a range of different insurances. We're trying to help everybody there.
So you can help more people.
Exactly, we can help more people.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And then, we have Rise Above Sober Living, which is our longest entity, and it's been
Yeah.
around for, over 5 years now.
Yeah.
And
It's really big now too.
it is very big.
Yeah.
We have 144 beds, I think.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
and we have a ton of people in sober living that have a lot of clean time, and, they've bought into the recovery process, so they try to welcome others. And, it's not a perfect system, but I do believe that connection and community are one of the keys to success in recovery. So sober living is a good avenue for someone to go live with a bunch of people who are trying to do the same thing that you're doing. And it's just easier to do,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think sober living is a huge thing. Like, it was necessary for me in my journey.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, having that built-in network of guys, when I came home and I was going through something, they knew exactly what I was going through.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it kind of gave me that push to be able to, like, reach out on my own. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, it built those skills that I need, those healthy living skills.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Which take years to develop.
Oh my God.
They take years to develop. People think that they're going to, master this recovery process
We're
in 30
addicts.
days.
Yeah. We want to be the best
I
because
know.
we're so insecure.
But the reality of situations, if you think about any skills that you've built in your life, if you're a great baseball player, if you're great at basketball, you've been doing those things for years and years and years. And so people need to understand the recovery process takes time. You should look at it like you're going to college. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
School of living here. You're going to college. You better be ready to invest years of your life.
Especially depending on people that have, for lack of a better word, I'm going to call it baggage, right? But so it sounds like you suffered extreme trauma.
Exactly.
So did I suffered extreme trauma. So just to even be comfortable enough to be mellow in a situation took me I'm still a very hyper person, right?
No, I get it. My past still affects me today. To pretend like I'm just completely over all my past, no.
Yeah.
No,
I've experienced trauma and I've written about it, you know what I mean, which I think is critical for people. That's why we engage in the writing process. People misunderstand the steps in 12-step recovery. You're getting to know who you are.
Yeah.
That's all it is. You're
who
literally
you are and who you're not. I've also discovered
you
who
learn
I'm
who you're not.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, because we have these negative self-belief systems
we
about
wanna be.
ourselves that aren't the truth, and then we reinforce it with these negative actions of
and
using.
the lies we tell ourselves over and over and
Exactly.
over. And I, literally what I've discovered I'm really good at in sobriety is I will create a situation to prove to myself that I'm not good enough. And literally you can just say something so simple to me and I will get so offended and I will spin it into something so big in my head.
Yep.
And then when I submit inventory to my friends, they're like, but what happened there? And I'm like, yeah, but you guys don't get it. They're like, no,
just don't
literally,
understand.
someone just told you something. But to me, it's so real.
Exactly. Well,
It's so
clinically, they've
real.
proven that people who experience trauma, they relive their trauma with their behaviors. You know what I mean? So if I think, if someone's suffered from sexual abuse, obviously it's not their fault. But they interpreted at one point in time that it was their fault. So then they reenact, a lot of people, self-harming behaviors because it creates a victim mentality and they hurt, you know what I mean? And so they continue to hurt themselves to continue to relive the trauma because it justifies in their mind who they are. Because unfortunately that incident created this belief system about themselves, so then they live in these unhealthy ways and reinforce this negative belief system. Recovery breaks that, we break that cycle. But it takes years of work.
Yeah.
But, it's amazing, and there's people who surround you and love you, and you become better than the person that you were.
Way better.
Way better.
Yeah, and you keep growing
You
too.
keep growing.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
There's no finish line.
No, there's no finish line.
We're out of
There
time,
isn't.
and I'm doing this random thing where I'm letting the guests take us out.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's your camera.
This is my camera?
Yeah, say that
Okay.
one, camera 2.
All right. So I would just say to anybody who's suffering from addiction, know that there's hope and that you can get clean, that recovery is possible and that recovery is a beautiful way of life, is the truth of the matter, So that's why we continue to do healthy practices for, to try to become healthy human beings, essentially.
All right.
So thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you. Yes. These
Awesome.
are 2 badass shows.